And wow, what a day. Quite a special day to be an Arsenal fan today. I I mean, obviously, like the whole Eze thing was reported quite aggressively over the last few days since the hijacking news came out through David Ornstein. Big announcement today. And it was quite a beautiful thing, actually. You if you have a heart, you probably, and you saw that moment when he walks out onto the Emirates pitch just before kickoff today. That was quite a beautiful moment to witness. Happy for him and his family. Happy for the Arsenal family that we welcome back one of our own. Even though he had obviously quite a journey between leaving the club at age 13 and coming back as a mature 27-year-old man. And yeah, the day was, the game itself was quite a difficult start. I would say we looked solid, but Leeds also looked quite up to the game. They were quite competitive and quite aggressive, actually, like in terms of like not dirty, but like they just played a very aggressive game, which I have a lot of respect for. I think they gave those first 30, 40 minutes or so. I know we scored in the first half, and we scored from a set piece. But like before we did the scoring, it was not an easy game. Like, it didn't look like a game where we were playing against, a newly promoted side. So fair play to Leeds for making it a game for the first half, I would say, because even when it was 1-0 after 34 minutes, they still stayed in the game. They didn't go chasing the game. It's only with time and probably like a bit of attrition over time, that they started to tire a little bit because we were making them run quite a bit defensively and we had a bigger bench. But the couple of things that I really, really want to highlight today was like Gyökeres and how we're adjusting to him, Noni Madweke, and how these two players are starting to show um, that they are going to be very helpful to Arsenal. Like I think people expected Gyökeres to be helpful because he had done some, he had proved himself more than Noni had, I would say, to in the eye of many Arsenal fans. Noni looked brighter with his minutes on the right, but I actually liked him on the left too. Like I like that he is very vertical. Like he's very willing to go up and take the early shot. He seems to also be able to play combination football, like up and down both flanks. He's very confident and quite capable of being physical with his opponent where he needs to be. I liked what I saw from him today from a point of view of like he looks like he belongs at that stage with this team. And I guess playing with more mature, level-headed players, some of his senior England teammates in Declan Rice and Bukayo Saka, probably has helped with him integrating it into the Arsenal squad. And I'm glad that Arteta gave him his first start because while I think Martinelli will benefit and do better for having competition, right now I think Martinelli is not giving Arsenal what we need in that position. So Madweke, having played mostly on the left, I was very happy with him. Unfortunately, Saka got injured, so we got to see him on the right too, which he looked good. But I think there was a lot more encouragement in what I saw from him. I know people can say it was just Leeds, but you can only play who's in front of you. At Old Trafford, I think people went in too hard on him. He actually did follow instructions and try to defend. Yes, we didn't look good on the day as a team, and so he didn't look good. But in this good team performance, he looked way better than he did the previous weekend. The other signing that like Zubimendi, I'm not going to talk too much about him. I want to talk about the two guys in the final third because I think we're going to need a lot from them if we're going to go as deep as we can in challenging for the competitions we participate in this coming season. The second one is Giorgores. He's not a clean footballer. He's not a clean footballer. He looks a bit clumsy. But what I do like about him is his endeavor. And he doesn't cheat the paying customer with his effort. So he goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. And I think it's going to take some time for us to get used to him and him to get used to us. However, having seen him at Old Trafford struggle as bad as he did, and having seen him today struggle again in a performance where he got a couple of goals, I think what we're seeing here is a guy who is trying to get his legs under him. He's a big lad. He's trying to, catch up to the speed of just match fitness. He did just sign not too long ago. I don't know what level of training he was able to do by himself, but there's different kinds of fitness. You can be fit and go to the gym and still not be match fit to play against Premier League athletes for 90 minutes. So I was happy to see him play 90 today. He had moments where he looked a bit clunky, but he also had some really good moments. I like how he took his first goal. Kind of disappeared for spells in the game, but like the pieces where he was involved, I liked what I saw. And the big thing today is, for me, the injuries. Like I think if Arsenal is healthy and all the other teams competing against Arsenal for the competitions we're in, and everyone is healthy for Arsenal, everyone is healthy for all the opponents, I would take Arsenal's chances to win the Premier League this year if health permits. The issue, as we saw, we lost Martin Odegaard to an injury, and we lost Bukayo Saka to an injury. It sounds like it was the other hamstring, not the one that was hurt last year. However, the problem with Bukayo Saka and Odegaard going down with the trip to Anfield next weekend is that we're going to have to rapidly integrate some of these newer guys. So Eze is probably going to have to start next week. And Madweke will most likely get his first start on the right next week, which opens up the left again. So, but at least we do have Trossard and Martinelli. But it's, I'd rather, like of all the people who could have gotten hurt in this game in our attacking positions, Saka was probably the one I didn't want to get hurt the most. Odegaard, I don't want him to get hurt, obviously, but I think we can go to Anfield and be fine without Martin Odegaard. But going to Anfield without both him and Bukayo and Kai, that's going to sting. That's going to be really, really hard on Arsenal. And I know it's early in the season, and the positive here is that if these injuries are not too long, we can have these boys back maybe by game week 7 or game week 8, especially for Saka, because we will have an international break after the Liverpool game. That's 2 weeks. So 3 weeks by the end of the international breaks, starting from today. And then there'll be a few more games and then another international break in October. If both of them are fine, and I hope that's the case, that they are both fine to come back before or just after the second international break, that's not too bad. However, what this means, though, is that maybe Arsenal are going to have to rethink, like, what to do with Fabio Vieira and Reece Nelson, right? You could still probably make deals for those players, but I wouldn't be too aggressive in trying to push them out at the moment, depending on what the news are for Odegaard and Saka. Because injuries, man, like especially after last year, injuries are really, really tough to deal with in this Premier League. It's a really tough league, as we saw In the early game today, Tottenham going to Manchester City and basically bullying City physically in their home patch. But we're not going to talk about that game too much right now. But I do think Arsenal have quite a very big squad, and I'm really, really happy that we have the players we have now. However, to build that level of depth and then lose 3 key players within 1 week, like Kai Havertz last Sunday at Old Trafford, and then Saka and Odegaard today, that must really blow. I mean, the only good thing is that it's still the transfer window. You can maybe try to maneuver either by keeping some of your players you would have sold, or by making quick deals for some of these players you don't want and bringing in one more. But like, man, that's a lot of change. And as we've seen in the first 2 games of the season, there's a lot of like maturing that the team needs to do in terms of like evolving into its new rendition, or the new version of Arsenal. We can't see yet like a totally fluent kind of football from this team, and that makes sense because like a lot of these players that are playing are still learning each other, and the guys who have been there are kind of falling apart. Like Ben White missed the game today because he's got a little niggle. Julian Timber couldn't start the first game because he's been having a niggle himself. And, like kind of like coming back from that injury he played a lot of last season carrying. And I just think health is going to be the one thing that prevents Arsenal from like getting the results that they want. But outside of that, I really like what we have. Whether we sell or don't sell is going to be influenced by, I think, by the length. I'm sorry, we will probably sell or send some people out on loan, but I think the length of those injuries is going to probably have a say in how many people we actually let go. And Kivior was on the bench today. He didn't make the bench last week. If Ben White is out already with an injury and Timber gets injured, Kivior is probably going nowhere because you're probably playing Mosquera now at right back, and you need a backup centre back. And we know Calafiori, he's not the most robust of players. At least in his time at Arsenal, he hasn't proved to be a very, strong player when it comes to like being able to stay in shape to play games long enough. So this is going to be a really good season if everybody stays well. I think Arteta, we are seeing him grow as a coach. We're also seeing the players kind of like start to develop as well, like into seniority. Gabriel is now an older statesman in the team. Saliba, you wouldn't be, but this kid is pushing 24. Odegaard, I'm sad for him because he had a rough year last year due to health, and then this season he's been busy trying to really play himself into form, and then this happens. So I really, really hope for both him, Saka, these injuries are not too long, and that maybe, Saka felt a twitch after, after getting his first major injury as a professional last season. Maybe he's being too cautious. I hope that's the case. But it's hard, man. It's a hard one. But yeah, elsewhere in the Premier League it's very difficult to call it. Like I said yesterday in the video I made, injuries are going to play a big part in who was at the top. Tottenham look good. I think they're going to be near the top for the first half of the season, and we'll see in the spring where everybody is. But like they look like they have discipline, and they defensive discipline, and they have good athletes throughout the team who can chase and defend with the best of them on a good day. Problem with them is going to be most likely when they get confronted with a low block, because teams will find out, okay, Tottenham is good, and let's adjust and let's do what they normally do when they play against a team that they feel they don't have a chance against, right? So that's going to be interesting to see what they do with that. But Thomas Frank is doing this early in the game, he's doing a good job. I know most people who support Arsenal are loath to say anything positive about Spurs, but Tottenham they're looking good. And they played 2-0 football today, like you should play 2-0 football. They didn't give up all the ball to City. They continued to put pressure on City. And that, I think, helped. Aston Villa, that was a shocking one for them against Brentford, but still early. They'll probably start making some signings now because they have been quiet in the window. And who else played today? Yeah, a lot of the early games, like the 9 o'clock kickoffs in the US, were not that deep. Like, I'm not too concerned with any of those teams. I'm going to be keeping an eye on Manchester United. They impressed me last week, so I'll keep an eye out for them. I don't know what they're going to be like when they play against middling teams like Fulham, but I liked what I saw against Arsenal last weekend. And what else is new for Arsenal? Yeah, health. That's the main thing. Besides health, I think Arsenal will be good, man. Like this is the most deep squad I've seen Arsenal have. And yeah, injuries are part of the season, I guess. But man, like, it sucks that it's happening this early. The only other positive maybe I could say is that, like, out of the first, now being August, between September and October, there's 2 breaks for internationals. So if these injuries to Odegaard, Saka, and Kai, if there's a silver lining at all with any of them, is the fact that, like, hopefully they don't miss too many games, because like the first 2 to 3 months are going to have some interlulls, and hopefully this is all that we have to deal with. I mean, jokingly, but like, yeah, I hope this is not something that's going to continue throughout the season, because we saw what happened last year. Anyway, guys, I'm going to stop here because I can go on and on about that performance. Max Diamond getting his debut was awesome for Arsenal. I think we have a really special talent in that kid, but I don't expect him to be, playing too many minutes when the game is not 4-0, for example. Like, I expect him to get some minutes in the Premier League, but like in situations like today, most likely. I don't want to be, getting too many people injured that we having to play mixed diamond from the beginning of games at Anfield or away at Newcastle. So other than that, like, Arsenal looked good. They look better than they did at Old Trafford. And yeah, excited about what's to come. Really excited about what's to come. All right, fellas and ladies. Peace. Up the corners.